We ended last time on the eastern side of the Jordan River in the book of Numbers, where before Israel even crosses the Jordan to begin conquest of the Promised Land, they've unexpectedly taken some territory. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh make a bold proposal that they be allowed to call this conquered land on the eastern side of the river home, as long as they cross over the Jordan with the rest of the nation and fight with their kinsmen until everybody else receives their inheritance on the other side. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but in many minds, the Jordan River has always marked the eastern boundary of the Promised Land. I wonder if there's some who are thinking, we're supposed to be separate from the pagans, and the river makes that easier. How's that going to work when 2.5 of us are living over there on the unclean side? So as the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh join the rest of the nation in crossing the Jordan River to follow Joshua into battle, there might be some cracks in the unity of the 12 tribes as they begin the conquest. But regardless, those 2.5 eastern tribes make good on their promise to fight. They contribute to victories at Jericho and Ai and its cities and towns throughout the land west of the Jordan as told in the book of Joshua. They are fully faithful in their pledge to fight till the end, and Joshua himself gives them an attaboy send-off in Joshua chapter 22. Then Joshua summoned the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and he said to them, "You have done all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and you have obeyed me in everything I commanded. For a long time now, to this very day, you have not deserted your fellow Israelites, but have carried out the mission the Lord your God gave you." And then Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went to their homes. So the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh left the Israelites at Shiloh in Canaan to return to Gilead, their own land, which they had acquired in accordance with the command of the Lord through Moses. That is so great! The 12 tribes, newly established in their territories, have harmony and everybody's happy. Except, what's this thing that happens next? When they came to Geliloth, near the Jordan in the land of Canaan, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh built an imposing altar there by the Jordan. And when the Israelites heard that they had built an altar on the border of Canaan at Geliloth, near the Jordan on the Israelite side, the whole assembly of Israel gathered at Shiloh to go to war against them. What? A single verse ago, all was harmony and homecoming. Why would the 2.5 tribes want to build an altar, which is apparently so objectionable that their brethren are ready to kill them for it? Let's unpack this a bit. The Israelites have a national place of sacrifice already. It's most likely set up at Shiloh, on the western side of the Jordan, where the 2.5 tribes just came from. It's where the priests of the nation are centered, and the tabernacle that they've used for the past 40 years is. Building another altar is an act of division. It's saying you have your worship place, and we choose not to use your place. We're building a place of our own. That's what the Western tribes think anyway. But here's what's strange about that. If the Eastern 2.5 tribes were looking to establish a separate place of worship, why would they build the altar on the western side of the Jordan, across the river from where they're going to be living? It makes me wonder if maybe the 9.5 tribes are jumping to some bad conclusions. So the Israelites sent Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, to the land of Gilead, that's across the river, to Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. And with him they sent 10 of the chief men, one from each of the tribes of Israel. And when they went to Gilead, to Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, they said to them, "How could you break faith with the God of Israel like this? How could you turn away from the Lord and build yourselves an altar in rebellion against him now? If you rebel against the Lord today, tomorrow he will be angry with the whole community of Israel. If the land you possess is defiled, come over to the Lord's land, where the Lord's tabernacle stands, and share the land with us. But do not rebel against the Lord or against us by building an altar for yourselves other than the altar of the Lord our God." Here's what I notice. Do you see how the western 9.5 tribes view the land east of the Jordan? It's not the Lord's land. It's apparently defiled, and why would you choose to live there? Can't you hear them? My brothers, you really should come over to the good and clean side where we reside. This was never a good idea to begin with, and your altar shows how quickly you're falling to the dark side. But the 2.5 tribes have a different objective for the altar. They've been sensing the undercurrent of division for a long while now, and it was high time that it all surfaced. Then Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh replied to the heads of the clans of Israel, "The mighty one, God, the Lord. The mighty one, God, the Lord." That's kind of a strange way to begin a response, don't you think? They choose to lead with and repeat their statement of faith. They're saying, let's get one thing clear right out of the gate. The Lord is our God. Don't you dare question our faithfulness. He knows, and let Israel know. If this has been in rebellion or disobedience to the Lord, do not spare us this day. If we have built our own altar to turn away from the Lord and to offer burnt offerings and grain offerings or to sacrifice fellowship offerings on it, may the Lord himself call us to account. No, we did it for fear that someday your descendants might say to ours, "What do you have to do with the Lord, the God of Israel?" The Lord has made the Jordan a boundary between us and you Reubenites and Gadites. You have no share in the Lord. So your descendants might cause ours to stop fearing the Lord. And this is why we said, let us get ready and build an altar, but not for burnt offerings or sacrifices. On the contrary, it is to be a witness between us and you and the generations that follow that we will worship the Lord at his sanctuary with our burnt offerings, sacrifices, and fellowship offerings. And then in the future, your descendants will not be able to say to ours, "You have no share in the Lord." And we said, if they ever say this to us or to our descendants, we will answer, look at the replica of the Lord's altar which our ancestors built, not for burnt offerings and sacrifices, but as a witness between us and you. In short, they're saying, we don't trust you guys. We think you still believe that we're not really Israel because we're not just like you, because we chose to live east of the Jordan. We think that faithful worship of the Lord and fulfilling our pledge to our kin makes us fully Israelite, no matter what territory we claim as home. And we think that as you get more settled, your boundaries are going to get more and more narrow so that eventually you'll claim the Lord for yourselves and forget that the very ground you live on is only yours because we helped it to be so. Their response is so defensive, so full of hurt, that I wonder about all of the side comments and latent hostility that they've been enduring, which have left them feeling this way about their kin. So here's what I want to see next. I want to hear Phinehas and the Western tribal leaders say something like, "May it never be! You are our brothers. Let's get our kids right now and bring them here to this altar that you have built so that we can tell them this story so that they and their descendants will never forget that you and yours will always have a share in the Lord." Here's their actual response. They were pleased. "Today we know that the Lord is with us because you have not been unfaithful to the Lord in this manner. Now you have rescued the Israelites from the Lord's hand." Then Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, and the leaders returned to Canaan, and they talked no more about going to war against them to devastate the country where the Reubenites and the Gadites lived. Not exactly the response that we were hoping for. The Western tribes seem much more concerned that the rules about sacrifices are being followed, and they're worried about this because of how the Lord might react against them. More than anything else, I see self-interest in their reply. Do you notice how they don't address the concern of the Eastern tribes at all? They don't want to discuss the real issue here, which is that Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh fear they'll be excluded from Israel just because they live on the other side of the Jordan. And the Reubenites and the Gadites gave the altar this name: a witness between us, that the Lord is God. And because that difficult conversation doesn't take place, the altar has to stand as a witness to their fears. They look into the future and sense that someday their Western kinsmen will claim that they and only they are the true Israel, and the 2.5 tribes are outsiders. Though they share in Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, though they faithfully follow Torah, though Moses gave his blessing and Joshua confirmed it, and though they did everything they vowed they would do to bring the Western tribes into their inheritance, all these bonds of kinship and honorable actions simply will not count. They will be diminished or forgotten with the passage of time. But the Jordan, it'll be there. And this waterway will be used as a boundary to define Israel more narrowly than God seems to want to define it. But the altar will also stand on the other side to witness to the more expansive idea that true Israel is defined by those who proclaim and live out that the Lord is God. Two sides of the Jordan, two opposing viewpoints, and a river of animosity and mistrust flows between them. Two sides of the aisle, two sides of the issue, and yes, a river of animosity and mistrust flows between them. Does it always have to be like this? Could this story of the Western versus the 2.5 Eastern tribes have anything to teach us about how we could do things differently? That's what we'll be diving into next time, so join us again. So thanks for coming along on this short journey into the Bible text. I hope you've noticed something new in the landscape, or maybe even a fresh way to view territory that you've covered many times before. Whatever the case, it's good to have you along for the trip. You never know what we might discover as we crack open this fascinating text together.